As you can see, I've got lots of lovely roses in front of me. Now there's a story behind these roses. They've come from the supermarket and originally £5.50. I got 2 bunches. They're fair trade roses. They were reduced to £2.42 and then I got them by making a charity donation. So quite near me is a lady who does some work or volunteers for charity called, I think, Mothers of Invention. And I drop off lots of my spare pieces of fabric and fabric scraps, and she and her team use their sewing machines, and I think they make things for people who have been homeless, moving into their first homes, draft excluders and things like that. But also she gets given the out-of-date flowers by the local supermarket, and I used to get flowers the same way too. When I used to run the after-school flower arranging club when my daughter was at primary school, I think I did that for 5 or 6 years. But there's an arrangement then with another local supermarket in town donated its flowers to the local church so they could use them, and I got the pick of the crop for the flower arranging club at the school just down the road. So as it happens, I had £2 in my purse, so I made a voluntary contribution of £2 for all these beautiful roses. Now, sometimes when I walk into town, I see this lady's house and I sort of have a bit of a sideways glance because I know she has flowers there, and sometimes I just don't like the flowers or they look a bit too far gone. But what attracted me to these beautiful flowers was their lovely purple colour. It's almost like a vintage rose, that colour palette that was very popular with brides a few years ago. And I thought that looked amazing. And now we've got some family and friends coming this weekend, so I thought it would be nice to make a flower arrangement to make my house look welcoming. But it's that getting the idea of how you're going to arrange your flowers. So what has inspired me was this little container with a home crafted piece on the top, and this was, I moved it to my mantelpiece. I was having a little bit of a move around. It comes in 2 parts, but it looks a little bit like, oh look, I've shown you the container I'm going to use. It looks a little bit like a sort of topiary, you know, a sort of utopiary, something like that. So the little urn was a raffle prize at a local flower club, so I was very pleased to win that. And by coincidence, this little paper crafted piece sits quite nicely on top. And you could imagine, for instance, that that was a head of dried hydrangea. Now, have I ever shown you how to make this? I'm not entirely sure. So let me know in the comments whether you can remember me showing you how to make this. It is, I don't know if you can just see a little fleck of white there. It's a polystyrene ball, and for some reason I'd cut it in half and I'd used half for another project. And I'd seen somebody making these flower heads, and the way I've done it is I've taken the pages out of an old London A to Z. So these are all map pages, and the book must be 35 years old that I'm ripping pages out of. So it's got that sort of aged patina. And then I used a stamp, a hole punch stamp, and I managed to find one by sheer absolute luck that had a little bit of a scalloped edge to it. The old-fashioned biscuit cutters, you can either get a smooth circle or the one with a little nipped-in edge. So it's given me that shape, and bizarrely, because I knew I wanted to do this project, I'd actually ordered my own craft punch online. So I ended up with 2 craft punches. I passed one of them on in the end and kept one. And it was lots of these bits of paper, and then I got a pencil, I think it was. And if that was my piece of paper, I put my pencil like that, scrunched up the paper around it, and then with the pencil impaled it into the plastic ball. I can't remember now whether it just stayed. I don't know whether these little tendrils are dust or whether it's tendrils from a hot glue gun. Possibly, I may well have put a bit of hot glue on the tip before I pushed it in with the pencil. So there must be, I don't know how many of the little circles there were, that perhaps we could do that together as a crafting project one time. So this has been the inspiration. I saw the flowers wrapped up in their cellophane and they were all massed, and I saw this and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to create something that was a little bit luxurious? You know, sometimes with flowers, if you've not got much growing in the garden, or you haven't got the budget for it, you might just put a few stems in a jam jar. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice to do something really, really luxurious and abundant and make my house look really welcoming for my friends? So what I am going to use is this Wedgwood vase with a little scallop shells. You might think, oh, we saw that before when you did that huge pedestal arrangement, when you cut the flowers from the Pick Your Own Farm. Yes and no. This is the baby sister to that larger vase I used. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I did an amazing arrangement, she says so herself, and I will leave a link to that in the description underneath this video. And then I've got this little flower frog. So it's a 2-layer grid, and I would say if you're ever looking for any kind of flower frog, the mechanics to get your flowers to stay in place, these 2-tier ones, or even if you're scrunching up chicken wire, if you get the layers in, your stems will lock more firmly in place. Sometimes you just get a grid that's just a single layer, and you might find the flowers are wanting to tip out because they become top heavy. But by having the 2 layers, it does seem to anchor them a little bit more. So that just fits inside there. I've got water up to here, so I will need to keep an eye on that with the hot weather we're having at the moment. And then you'll see that I have got my flowers in an old Pyrex jug. So as soon as I got home, because I picked these flowers up a couple of days ago, I took off the cellophane. I haven't actually used the flower food. I guess I could put the flower food inside, but what I'm going to do is just look and see how much. It says it's for 1 litre. I haven't got 1 litre of water in here, so never overdo it with your concentrate, because there's something about osmosis. It's not, more isn't better for your flowers. You have to make it up exactly to the amount required. So I could get another jug, mix it all in with 1 litre and tip it in. I don't think I'm going to use that, so I'll probably put that in the drawer to use for another day. So when I got my flowers home, I put them somewhere cool, which I put them into my utility room. We've got a washing up bowl in the sink there, so I recut the stems and let them rest. Now, because time had passed, and I can't remember when I picked these flowers up, it's Saturday morning now when I'm filming. Possibly I picked them up on Wednesday, so they've been resting in my utility room until I've had the time to arrange them properly. So yesterday I thought, are they looking a bit bedraggled? So bear in mind, I wonder what the label said, the best before date. It says 5-day guarantee. I can't see when the date was. So I'm just a bit, I'm suspecting these flowers may well be over a week, if not 10 days old, if not already nudging 2 weeks old, who knows. So I decided what I need to do is give them the emergency treatment. So I don't know whether you've seen me do that before, but I've got my Pyrex jug. I poured some boiling water in it. I cut quite a significant amount off the end of my stems. So originally I just trimmed them by a couple of centimetres. And this time I thought I really want this hot water to open up the vessels inside the stems so the water can go to the flower head. So I cut probably another good 5 centimetres off the end, not too short because I know I need the stems to go inside my vase. So they've probably been sitting in this boiling water probably now for a couple of hours. I got up and had breakfast, made myself a cup of tea, put some hot water in my jug, recut the stems and put the flowers in there. So the flowers have had a bit of a shock and the water has gone slightly murky. And can you see that effectively hot water treatment is only emergency treatment? If you're buying your roses from a florist or you're from the supermarket and they're really fresh, you don't need to do this. But I just thought he just needed a perk up. Don't they look absolutely gorgeous? So on the stems, you can see there's a tide mark between the healthy green stem, and can you see this bit here that is quite, can you catch that if I put my hand there? This bit here, bright green there, and that point there, it then becomes this murky brown khaki colour. So, as I say, do it for yourself, but not if you're going to give flowers to a friend or something like that. So I don't know how many flowers I've got. How many would have been in those bunches? Do you think it might have been 10 per bunch, 20 flowers? There was one flower that the head had pinged off, it had gone over, it died. So perhaps I could count them, or perhaps you can count them as I arrange them and let me know how many I've got. So I thought I would try and use this as my guide and create a luxury arrangement that was a very close clipped sort of Biedermeier style, as if I had a box hedge, a yew hedge that I've been trimming, a bit of topiary shape. So let's see whether I can do that. So I'm going to arrange it and make it with you. I don't think I've ever done an arrangement like this before. I have previously taught classes where we've taken a flower foam ball and made a pomander that you quite often seen as being a bridal piece or something at Christmas time, where you go all the way around the flower foam, which takes up absolutely loads of roses. Probably for something like that, you'd need 60 roses, and then it would have a ribbon tied on it. So I don't want to do a ball because, number one, I'm not using flower foam anymore, and number two, I've only got half the sphere that I'm going to create. So I'm probably going to take off most of the leaves, and I thought I would go around the edge first, but I need to know how long to cut my stems, because if you cut them too short thinking, oh, I just want these little heads, what will happen if you cut them really short is a bit of physics for you, that the balance won't be right, because your flower head, although it's small, neat and compact, is comparatively heavier than the stem at the end. So you'll find if you do ever cut your flowers too short and put them in a vase, you may find that the flower head wants to sort of ping out of the vase, and you get your flowers catapulting out of the vase. So I've cut it that long, so between finger and thumb, and I want it to rest its head on the edge. So I think have I by luck managed to do that right. So perhaps I can go along and cut to the same length. I'm just going to eye it up, finger to thumb. I don't want to cut all the flowers the same length, because I might have misjudged it, and the flowers just might sit slightly differently. That one's got a curved stem on it, so it's wanting to twist out of the way. So I'm going to go round the edge first. I'm wondering as well whether I've got my grid there that is helpful, but is it going to be too stifling? Because if I want to come up on the top, I'm not sure I'm going to have enough holes to make sure the flowers stay in place. So en masse, these flowers look really nice, but individually, each of them is looking a little bit worse for wear. So going round, I've got some, even though I'm trying to put them close together, I'm getting gaps. So perhaps I will push them together more. So that's 4 if you're counting along. Like that. That still doesn't quite want to go. So I'm taking all the leaves off, because I'm finding when I want to readjust, the leaves are getting caught in that grid. I don't always take off the outer edge petals. If they're particularly damaged, I would. But even though I was doing this for a wedding, I would, because the guard petals are what kept the buds secure while it was growing. And you want, if you're doing bridal work, for your flowers to be fully open and in peak condition. But because this is going to be quite a compact arrangement, I can, get away a little bit with not doing that, because you won't see the individual flowers. You're just going to see a whole mass of rose. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was quite a nice one there. 7. There's definitely one of the bunches where they're more open and one where they're more closed. I'm getting confused now. 8. I hope you're keeping up. So I've nearly got one row done. I think it's that first one that's not right. I think perhaps I was cutting it cutting it long, so I've taken a little bit more off. That's better. It's sitting properly. So again, when you've got a shape like this to do, it's not so much flower arranging. It's almost like you're crafting. You're just placing one after the other. You could imagine if you had artificial flowers, you might be getting your glue gun out and doing stuff. You'll have to imagine what it looks like. Normally I would tip it towards the camera, but it's got water in it. So if I could tip a little bit, perhaps, can you just see the grid in there? So I've gone all the way around once. Now, what I'm going to do then is sort of layer it up like bricks. So when you have the bricks and you've got the seam like that with the mortar in, and then lay the next brick across. So rather than making columns of flowers, I'm going to make a brickwork of flowers. So, and I think, is it a good idea to decide which is the front and which is the back? So I'm squaring the vase onto me, which is easy to do because I've got these little handles here. I can see immediately that the fuller roses are facing me, and you've got the smaller ones at the back there. So I hope you don't mind about that. And then let's go with the second layer. So I've got the 2 flower heads like that, and I'm going to put the next one in between. And this is when I will find eventually that I'm starting to run out of space. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking it might fill up quite quickly. Perhaps I might even have enough flowers left, don't speak too soon, to actually put some in the glass vase. I thought I would use the glass vase originally, but then I didn't want to really see the tangle of stems inside. That's quite nice when you use an opaque vase that you can't see what's happening with the stems. And I'm having to look more carefully to not only get my flower head in the right place, but I need to aim for one of the holes in the grids where the flower is going to sit down. I'm just making sure as well that the outer roses don't sort of fall down the plug hole of the vase, that they are splaying out at the sides. Oops, I pulled out one of the heads accidentally. I've decided that they weren't. I'm going to just move them. I think they could do, these are the ones that were slightly smaller headed, they could do with being put in towards the edge more. I was putting everything in the middle and relying on the length of the stem to rest outwards at the side. I think this will be better like that. So I'm adding a few more roses round the back. Okay, I've totally lost count of how many roses I'm using. Look, let's not fiddle. Let's just try and go all the way around. And then if I see some gaps, I could use the extra flowers just to really make it look luxurious. Perhaps I shouldn't be thinking about, I could make a second one. I want this arrangement to absolutely look like a total showstopper. And then I'll need to decide where to put it. I might put it on, I've got a shelf in my hall so that when I open the door to people, they could have a look at it. The shelf's got a mirror behind it, so I get double flower reflecting back at me. Filling up. Again, just if one looks like it's slipped down, just very gently, and really you shouldn't be tugging your roses by the flower head because you'll bruise them. So if you can, you need to get in, instead of pulling it from here, you sort of need to get to the head of the stem and adjust it from there. Otherwise you'll do what I've done and actually pull the head off, and you'll be disappointed with yourself. So that is there's 2 complete circles. So in the middle, I've probably got a bit about this big. that needs filling in. So actually I've got 4 roses left. So this is the biggest one. It's got a bit of a mushy petal there. So I'm going to take that mushy petal off and that one there. I'm going to aim with the biggest one just to get that centrally down. Actually, it's practically filled the whole of that gap. That looks good. So I can see where my front is. I've got this definitely the fuller roses. So I don't really, apart from the fact it will be reflected in my hall mirror, I could perhaps leave that back view. What do you think? Because I want it to look absolutely beautiful from this end. So I've got 3 roses left and they are the smaller head. Well, they haven't opened out as much. So I can recut the stems and just every little tiny gap. So I'm trying to make sure it's almost like a swimming hat. Or I've put a colander over the top, a basin haircut, that kind of thing. But I don't want, for this style design, it's flowers only. The flowers are doing the talking. I want them to be in this nice rounded shape. So no outliers, well, actually, I was going to say no sense of movement, and it doesn't really have a sense of movement because the flowers are all the same length and packed in. So we're sort of going for a luxury look of just pack the flowers in and make it look like I've spent loads and loads of money, well, for my guests, making them feel special. That one sort of almost looks like it's in bud. So I think that was the middle flower I put in. I'm going to push my middle flower towards me because the one behind that looks a little bit, it's not quite so open. It's almost like I'm using my fingers here as chopsticks just to manoeuvre around. So I think that's the arrangement done. Let's move my pile of leaves and stems off to one side, and then we'll have the inspiration piece here, and then the actual arrangement using my very old supermarket flowers that have been given the hot water treatment. So perhaps I could even put them together. On my mantelpiece, I could have the crafted version and then the fresh flower version. So what do you reckon? Now, if you decide to give this project a go, why don't you share a picture in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World? There's a link to that group in the description underneath this video. And if you're not flower arranging, just let me know what you're doing this weekend. Perhaps you're crafting or going out to the charity shop or even going to a car boot fair. Well, that's all from me for now, and I'll see you again next time. Right, I'll leave you to have a look at these. I'll just move my chair out of the way. Don't they look absolutely gorgeous? A round of applause to me.